it's Nicole and Rue. Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I am partnering up with Cirque Colors to share their new April Showers collection. This is a brand new collection that features 7 brand new shades to the Cirque Colors lineup, and it's not limited edition. Woohoo! This is a mixed finish release that features shimmer graphics, reflective glitters, jellies, as well as magnetics. I feel like this collection has a little bit of everything for everyone. The April Showers collection is available right now on the Cirque Colors website. If you want to pick this release up at a discount, you can use my affiliate code, which is Nicole Loves Nails, to save 10% off the entire website. All of the products featured in today's video were sent to me by Cirque Colors, and today's video is also sponsored. Thank you so much, Cirque Colors, for sponsoring today's video. I greatly appreciate the support. As always, in the description box, I will have links to where you can pick all of these polishes up, the brand's website, social media pages, my social media pages, and of course, timestamps as well. And of course, there will also be some comparisons towards the end of the video. Let's just get right into this one. The first polish up is called Thunderbolt, and Cirque describes this one as a thunder yellow shimmer graphic nail polish with a gold, green, blue shifting aurora shimmer and an intense scattered holographic effect. Thunderbolt had a fantastic formula, as is expected from a Cirque Colors shimmer graphic shade. Because this polish has a gold, green, blue color shift in the shimmer, I did find that while the base color on here is a really bright, fun, sunshiny yellow, as your hand moves around, it's almost gonna look like you have a chartreuse on your nail from the green color shift. I feel like if you just look at a snapshot of this, especially when that kind of green-blue shimmer is really strong, it is indeed going to look like a chartreuse, but you can really see when it moves back towards like the gold color shift that this is definitely like a yellow base nail polish. I found this one applied super easily, very smoothly as well. For my full hand swatch as well as a live swatch, I'm showing this one in 2 coats plus 1 layer of glossy top coat. I was pleasantly surprised by how opaque this particular polish is. I really loved how this one looked on me in only 2 coats. I had like the teeniest amount of visible nail line, especially in brighter lighting, but it wasn't enough nail line that I personally thought I needed to add a 3rd coat. But if you wanted to cover up your VNL, just add that 3rd coat and it should get you square. Is that saying? Get you square? That sounds wrong. Get you squared away? I should stop saying sayings. I love how this polish both has a really strong shimmer effect as well as a whole lot of holographic sparkle. So in bright direct lighting, the holographic is really gonna just like bing blam boom in your eyes. And then in low lighting, you're gonna see all the color shifty goodness from the shimmer. I do find, as a general rule for Cirque's shimmer graphic shades, you're gonna want 1 to 2 coats of top coat to smooth out all those holographic glitters. It's gonna depend heavily on the thickness level of your glossy top coat and whether or not you're gonna need to add a 2nd coat. But for my swatching, I was pretty happy with how it looked in one. Removal for the shade is gonna be on the more difficult side just because there is holographic glitter in here and a whole lot of shimmer, which will make things very messy. I wouldn't personally recommend scrubbing this one off. Definitely use the soak off method or a peel off base coat. While I didn't personally experience any staining with this particular polish, I find as a general rule that yellows tend to be things that stain my natural nails. So if you're particularly concerned about staining, double up on your base coat, which is what I did for my swatches. The next polish up is called Raincheck. This is another shimmer graphic, and Cirque describes this one as a petrol blue-gray shimmer graphic nail polish with a red, gold, green aurora shimmer, as well as an intense scattered holographic effect. Raincheck also had a really great formula. I did find this one was a little bit more sheer than the previous shimmer graphic, so this one's gonna be a 2 to 3 coater depending on your own personal preference. I'll be swatching this one out in 3 coats. I largely did 3 coats for this particular shade because I felt while coverage was really even in 2 coats, I did find that the amount of visible nail line that I had, I figured I should just add a 3rd coat just to see how much that would cover up. I would say Raincheck got to like 90 to 95% opacity. In my studio lighting, I didn't see any visible nail line, but as I was kind of moving my hand around getting closer to lighting, I could see just like a hint of nail line. While Cirque describes the shimmer in here as a red, gold, green color effect, my eyes were picking it more of like a pinky red to orange to gold to green. The shimmer is super smooth and also pretty dang color shifty. I do feel like the base color on this one, this is one of those really fun shades of that bluish gray color, where some days you're like, oh yeah, it's a grayish blue, and then other days like, no, it's a bluish gray. I feel like this is gonna be one of those colors that whether or not you think it's a blue gray or a gray blue is going to depend very heavily on your own personal eyeballs. I personally think that it's more of a blue that has a lot of gray in it as opposed to a gray that has a little bit of blue in it. But again, I acknowledge that this is one of those things that's going to depend on the person, what color you think it is. I will say, I do feel like this is a really good gray tone shade for like the coming spring season. I guess spring has started. I feel like this is a very springy type of grayish bluish kind of color though. The holographic in here is super duper sparkly as is expected from one of Cirque's shimmer graphic shades. And the glitter, of course, does dry down fairly textured. I did one thick layer of glossy top coat for my full hand swatches here. And once again, I do think it's gonna be a 1 to 2 layers of top coat to smooth all the glitters out kind of thing. I would once again recommend using either the soak off method or a peel off base coat for removal. Do not scrub this off. The next polish up is called Under My Umbrella, and yes, I am trying really hard not to sing the song because I don't want to get a copyright strike. So Cirque describes this one as a violet purple nail polish with a super fine silver white magnetic pigment and a delicate purple shimmer. Under My Umbrella also had a really fantastic formula. I found for this particular shade, unmagnetized, it looks super pearly. As many of you are perfectly aware, I myself am not a pearly kind of gal. I'm just not a fan of that kind of finish, so I really prefer this one magnetized. While this looks kind of like a pastel-y, pale purpley shade when it's unmagnetized, once you magnetize this one, you can definitely see that the overall base color on here is a very deep purple. And then it's that kind of silvery, whitish magnetic pigment that causes it to just look so, you know, pastel-y unmagnetized. This is gonna be one of those magnetic shades that once you magnetize it, it's gonna look significantly darker on the nail. I do agree with the brand that the magnetic pigment in here is definitely like a very whitish silver color. I don't have confirmation for the brand on saying this, but like I am heavily speculating. I think if this pigment isn't the same as the magnetic pigment that we saw from Cirque from last month, it's very, very similar. I found this magnetized super duper easily for me, both with the cat eye effect as well as the velvet effect. And for the velvet effect, I did use Cirque's horseshoe style magnet. I'm gonna call this one a 2 to 3 coater depending on application style and personal preference. Unmagnetized, you can definitely get away with the shade in only 2 coats. This is gonna be one of those magnetic shades that do sheer out a little bit once you magnetize them. So I'm gonna call this one a 2 to 3 coater depending on your own personal preference. When I did the cat eye effect with this shade in 2 coats, I found that towards like on my free edge, I could see significantly more visible nail line on there. So for my full hand swatches, my magnetized nails are in 3 coats and my unmagnetized nails are in 2 coats. For me personally, since I don't mind visible nail line that much, I think it's definitely passable in 2 coats, but I feel like for the purpose of showcasing the best way to show things, I feel like the 3rd coat was needed just, you know, so you could see what it looks like. I feel like the addition of the purple shimmer in this particular polish, I feel like it kind of brightens the overall look of this, even though the base looks pretty dark. I feel like there's like this bright pop of purple within the deeper purple, and I feel like it overall kind of lightens up the whole thing on the nail. Nothing in here is gonna dry down texture. Removal is gonna be fairly easy, but on the more messy side due to the shimmer and the magnetic pigment. You could scrub it off if you really want, and you're just gonna have, you know, glitter fingers. The next polish up is called Puddle. Cirque describes this one as a rich blue nail polish with a super fine silver white magnetic pigment and a beautiful blue shimmer. Puddle also had a fantastic formula. It is basically the blue version of the polish that we just saw. The base on here is a very dark blue. I don't think it's such a dark shade of blue that it's going to be confused for black. I would say that the blue base is in the dark blue family, but not like the blackened blue family. It's not quite that dark. And similarly to the last magnetic shade, the addition of that blue shimmer, I feel like it just kind of adds like an extra brightness. So even the base is dark because the shimmer is quite a bit lighter. It kind of all like pops together and just, it doesn't look as dark on the nail with the addition of the shimmer, in my opinion. I did find for this particular shade, it shears out quite a bit in 2 coats. For this particular shade, I would recommend magnetizing on the 3rd layer. If you are new to how I do my magnetization, by the way, for me, I only magnetize on my final coat, and then once again when I add top coat, I don't magnetize my 1st and 2nd layers because I generally find if you magnetize every single layer, I feel like the overall look is going to be quite a bit more sheer, and I prefer my magnetics to have, you know, opacity and some bling bling bow. So I only magnetize on my final coat and then once again with top coat. However, if you want to wear this one unmagnetized, you can reach full opacity with it in only 2 coats. For this particular shade, this was one of my favorite polishes in the collection that paired with the topper. I feel like the blue on blue just looks so perfect together. This once again magnetized super duper easily using both the cat eye effect as well as for the velvet effect. I think I prefer this one in the velvet effect personally. Nothing in here is going to dry down texture. Removal is going to be super duper easy. I did not personally experience any sting, but as always, if you're concerned about that, double up on your base coat. The next polish up is called Misty Morning, and Cirque describes this one as a light blue flash reflective glitter nail polish topper. Misty Morning also had a fantastic formula. Even though this one is a reflective glitter, I did not find that the base felt overly thick at all. I would say it's in line with what I would normally expect from a glitter topper. However, for this particular shade, I do feel like the overall base on this, it has like a very slight blue tone to it. I did still find that it paired really nicely as a topper over a variety of shades, but I feel like if you wore this over, say, like white or even silver, I feel like you would get like a little bit of a blue tinge to it. For my full hand swatches, because I am obsessed with glitter, I opted to swatch this one out in 3 coats on its own. I will also have this shown in 1 coat over Rhapsody in blue, 1 coat over black, and then 3 coats on its own, because for Cirque's reflective glitter polishes, for whatever reason, I always like wearing these in 3 coats as an accent nail. So truthfully, I swatched this one out how I personally would wear it. That's how my full hand swatches came to be, over was how I would, you know, normally wear. Because this is a nail polish topper, it is not in fact going to be able to reach full opacity. Even when built up in 3 coats, you'll have super obvious visible nail lines. I found this particular shade paired really nicely with every polish in this collection. I feel like I personally gravitated more strongly towards the blues over the blue. I don't know why, but I really like the blue over the blue. But I feel like it paired really nicely with all of the polishes in the collection. Because this is reflective glitter we're talking about, this is going to dry down fairly textured. I was actually really surprised to find that I did 1 thick layer of glossy top coat for my full hand swatches when I built this one up in 3 coats, and it actually covered up the texture really well. I had that particular swatch on for several hours and it didn't get super gritty after a couple of hours. I would still recommend doubling up on your top coat just to make sure it stays nice and smooth. And this is reflective glitter. Do not scrub this polish off. Do not ever scrub off reflective glitter. Reflective glitter can be a little bit sharper upon removal, so definitely soak off method or a peel off base coat. The next polish up is called Tempest Jelly, and Cirque describes this one as a muted dusky blue nail polish. Tempest had a fantastic jelly formula. Because this one is in fact a jelly nail polish, it is obviously going to be on the more sheer side because, you know, it's a jelly. I found this one applied super easily, very evenly. The formula did not feel overly thick or thin. It applied so nicely. While Cirque describes this as a dusky blue, I would put this in like the slate blue family, like towards like the darker end of a slate blue. It's very gray heavy, but also very clearly blue. I feel like Cirque added quite a bit of pigment into this particular polish, so even though it's a jelly shade and you're not going to get quite the same color on the nail that you see in the bottle, I feel like Cirque added the perfect amount of pigment into this particular jelly polish. There's enough pigment in this particular shade where the color that you see in the bottle, you do in fact get on your nail, which I greatly appreciate. But because this is a jelly shade, I did still have very obvious visible nail lines. This is still going to be sheer enough that you can choose it to layer over other colors, other toppers, which is how I prefer to use jellies, or even in nail art. Because this is a jelly shade, it's going to be super duper easy to remove, basically the same as a cream, and I did not personally experience any staining. Also, FYI, I recently removed my gel overlay, and so I do have some bruising on my nails, so if you're seeing kind of white dots on my nail bed, that's because I accidentally damaged my nails, and I now have to grow that out.
This is serious.
And the final polish in this collection is called Downpour Jelly, and Cirque describes this one as a medium blue jelly nail polish with slight green undertones. Downpour Jelly also had a fantastic jelly formula. I found Cirque describing this as having slight green undertones really interesting. So my own undertones, especially on my hands, my hands lean a lot kind of more reddish in tone than like the rest of me does. I did not catch this had green undertones in it at all. I found on my hands at least, I would say this was very kind of cool tone, but not like greenish. So I do agree with Cirque calling this one a medium blue, but my eyes were not picking up any green undertones. I'm now super curious for folks who have like cool undertones, if this is gonna lean green on them or not. So yeah, let me know, cool undertone people, if it leans green on you. For this particular shade, you can really see in my full hand swatches that the color on the nail isn't quite as deep in color as what you see in the bottle, but the depth of color that I got in 3 coats on my nails is indeed what I would have expected from a jelly nail polish. Like, I feel like the color that I see on my nails matches really well with the color in the bottle. I don't know why, but for this particular shade, my mind just like ran off into like sharks for some reason. Hi, so update. I was thinking that I didn't make any sense by saying this reminded me of like shark water for some reason, but if you look up the movie Jaws, I feel like this is the color of the water in the movie Jaws, and I think that's where my brain was going with this. My mind went like, oh, this would be really cool to use for like water in like some kind of nail art thing. Somebody do it, let me know how it turns out. Downpour Jelly also applied super easily, very evenly, and I didn't find the base to feel overly thick or thin. Because this is a jelly nail polish, you will in fact have visible nailing with it in 3 coats. It's supposed to be that way. You are not supposed to reach full opacity with the jelly. You can definitely see the bruising and damage that I have on my nails. So yeah, it's definitely sheer enough you can layer it with other polishes, which on the screen right now should be showing some of the ways that I kind of layered these around. Nothing in here is going to dry down textured. It's a jelly. So removal is going to be easy because it's a jelly. You could scrub it off if you wanted because it's a jelly. Okay, let's get right into some comparisons. First up, we have Thunderbolt. To compare to Thunderbolt, I pulled out Shaka and U-Tart. U-Tart is also a shimmer graphic, however, but Shaka isn't, and I'm pretty sure this one is also discontinued over here. I largely pulled out Shaka to compare to Thunderbolt because this polish also has a yellow base plus shimmer and holographic, but not in the exact same formulation. Because this has a yellow base in a similar formulation, however, Shaka is not a shimmer graphic. And then U-Tart is also a shimmer graphic, but I believe the brand described this one as being kind of like a limey type of base color, so it's significantly more green. I really just wanted to showcase how while this one has a yellow base, the green shimmer does make it lean like a little bit in the chartreuse family, but not quite there in comparison to say U-Tart. But looking significantly more green than something that has a warmer shimmer effect. To compare to Raincheck, I pulled out Grimoire Glitz as well as Showgirl. So I thought Grimoire Glitz and Showgirl would be really good comparisons to compare to Raincheck. Grimoire Glitz is described as being a gray base and Showgirl is described as being a periwinkle base. So I feel like these two base colors here, you can see like it leans a little bit really closely towards this more gray color, but it also has like a little bit of blue in here as well, and it's not quite as like just gray as Grimoire Glitz is. I could see some people feeling that Raincheck and Grimoire Glitz are really similar base color wise. So the difference between these, while these are all shimmer graphic shades, for Raincheck, it has a different shimmer effect than Grimoire Glitz does. The pink color shift in Grimoire Glitz is a bit more kind of purple leaning, like magenta almost. I would say that the shimmer color in Grimoire Glitz is a little bit cooler in tone in comparison to Paycheck. They have similar color shifts, however. Raincheck has a red, gold, green color shift, and Cirque describes Grimoire Glitz's color shift as being pink, gold, green. I would say what I'm seeing here, it's leaning a lot more purple to my eye, and Showgirl shimmer is much lighter in color than these other two polishes. And next up to compare to Puddle, I pulled out Mind Over Matter, Blue Velvet, and Helter Seltzer. So first off, for the differences between these, I pulled out Helter Seltzer. Truthfully, I don't know why I pulled out Helter Seltzer. I thought in the bottle it was gonna look more similar to Puddle, but it clearly has like a very dark gray base, and also the magnetic pigment in here is actually silver linear hollow, so it's not really that similar. Don't know why I pulled it out, but I did, so yeah.
I don't apologize because I never make, mistakes.
Color-wise, I feel like these three shades here are all very different shades of blue, but I feel like also you can really see that the magnetic pigment is a lot smoother and smaller in particle size in Puddle as opposed to these other two shades over here. I feel like most of Cirque's past magnetic shades have this same kind of larger particle size as far as the magnetic pigment goes, and this super small, fine, silvery white color is in only the newer magnetic shades. Puddle has a deeper blue tone than Blue Velvet does, but it's also a very different tone as well. And next up to compare the magnetic topper, we have over here Misty Morning. I pulled out Cirque's Disco Ball and Starlight over here. All three of these polishes are all reflective glitters, but Misty Morning is a blue reflective glitter, Disco Ball is a silver reflective glitter, and Starlight is a rainbow reflective glitter. And here is a close-up of the reflective glitters with flash. So I didn't pull it out to compare, but I just thought of it. Right over here is Cirque Colors Spa Water. This was one of their birthday releases. Cirque actually did re-release this particular shade and they called it Unrequited Love. I didn't pull this one out to compare to Misty Mornings, largely because while this does have a bluish look on the nail, the blue you're getting is from the base color as well as the shimmer. So I didn't think they were going to be that comparable. I just want to do a bottle shot side by side here so you can see that they're not that similar. The next comparison over here, we have Under My Umbrella. To compare to that, I pulled out Clairvoyant, Daybreak, and Lush. So I feel like between these four shades here, they're all different tones of what I would think of as like definitely purples over here and more kind of periwinkle leaning shades over here. Once again, the magnetic pigment in these three shades over here is a larger particle size, and you can really see how much sparklier it is as compared to Under My Umbrella. In comparison to these other shades, I feel like Under My Umbrella is skewing just like a little bit more in the dusty family. Kind of similar to this is kind of dusty, but I feel like they're different colorways. Trying to fit all of these swatches on screen is making me regret my decision for doing the comparison this way, but we're just gonna go forward anyway. I pulled out all of my blue tone Cirque jellies that I could find. I could have sworn that I own Navy Jelly, but I cannot find it in one of my drawers, so maybe I don't have Navy Jelly. Anywho, to compare, right here we have Downpour Jelly. Over here we have Tempest Jelly. This shade right here actually is not a jelly shade, it's Cirque's Hudson, which is a cream. I only pulled this one out because I thought the color of it was going to be like kind of similar in this kind of color family, especially to Downpour Jelly. So I wanted to just pull it out so you can see like a color comparison for a cream. Obviously, this is going to be opaque because it's a cream and the rest of their jellies. I largely just pulled this one out because I thought the color family would be kind of similar. It's not. It's a bit darker. But when I opened my blue drawer from Cirque, I thought Hudson, which is over here, I thought Hudson looked super, super similar to Downpour Jelly in the bottle at least. So I thought the color families would be more similar.
Nope, 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 nope.
They're not. Next up over here, we have Midnight Jelly. And then right here, we have Indigo Jelly. Right here, we have Cobalt Jelly. And right over here, we have Blurple Jelly. And then I just want to pick this up really quick so you can see the level of opacity each shade has, as well as what it kind of looks like just raised up off of the paper towel. Color-wise, I would say Downpour Jelly kind of fits a hole between these shades over here. I feel like it has quite a bit more gray toniness to it in comparison to the other blue shades, as well as like Blurple Jelly over here, which is not in any way similar to these other shades. But I feel like this one, just the tone of this is really going to be the difference between Cirque's other blue tone jellies. Also, I swatched all of the jelly shades out in 3 coats for this, and I do think I was like a little bit heavy-handed with them, so just heads up there. I feel like Tempest Jelly is pulling so incredibly gray tone in comparison to all these other blue shades. It's honestly really blowing my mind how gray in comparison it looks to the other blues. I think as far as color comparisons go, Midnight Jelly is probably the most similar in color to Downpour Jelly, but Downpour Jelly is just like a little bit dustier than Midnight Jelly. Like I feel like this is what I would expect from like a Midnight Blue Jelly nail polish, and I would not put this in that same kind of color family. Okay, these next 2 comparisons are for 2 of Cirque's recent releases. Cirque recently released the Fresh Flowers Duo. I posted a video on that like a week or so ago, and I forgot to do comparisons in there, so I just want to throw those comparisons of those 2 polishes right here. I will have that video linked in case anyone wants to go see if you missed it. So over here to compare to Bloom, I pulled out Cirque's Solstice, Flora, and Perseus over here. So these are like my pinkest of the pink magnetics from Cirque. Perseus has a red colored base and these other ones are various pink ones. I wouldn't say that any of these polishes are terribly similar. Once again, the magnetic pigment here is in fact different from these other shades. I would say base color wise, Bloom has the most similar base color to Flora over here, which I find kind of funny since they're both named after flowers. But between the magnetic pigment in the 2 polishes being different, and I feel like the base on Flora just has like a little bit of a different vibe in comparison to Bloom. I think a lot of that difference comes in for the fact that Bloom also has an additional shimmer in here that these other polishes doesn't have. So even though the base colors are similar, I feel like you're getting a different look on it, like aside from the pigment being different, I mean. Like, I think the addition of the shimmer is just giving off a little bit of a different vibe in comparison to Flora. Also for the comparison for Bloom, I didn't pull out Cirque's Head Over Heels because I thought the pink tones in these 2 polishes were going to be too different to really be all that comparable. But here is a quick bottle shot of the 2 polishes as they are fairly different. And to compare to Sprout over here, I pulled out Good Vibes Only and Maypole. Once again, I feel like you can clearly see that the magnetic pigment is different between these 3 polishes. This is smaller, smoother, and this is just like a little bit more sparklier. I feel like the tone of green in Sprout feels a bit more like natural, botanical. Like I would expect to see this particular color out like in the grass or something. While Good Vibes Only we could describe as like naturally occurring, I feel like you wouldn't quite see Maypole out. Like I feel like out of these 3 greens, I feel like Sprout is the color that I would expect to see as like the base of a flower, some kind of like plant life. And I feel like these 2 other shades, at least for Connecticut foliage, I'm not gonna probably see these 2 colors out and about in my travels. Okie dokie, so final thoughts time. If you watch the channel on a regular basis, you probably are fully aware that I really love it when a brand has like multiple finishes within the same collection. I don't know why I love that so much, but I really do. So I love this collection had, you know, we had glitter, we had hollow, we had shimmer, we had magnetics, we had jellies. I love that for this collection. I also really like that I feel like the colors of this particular collection, I feel like it really, even though this is the April Showers collection, I really like the additional pops of color that we got in this release, and that it wasn't just like various shades of grays and blues. If you are unaware, I am not in fact a spring collection lover, so I really like these like random pops of color. As far as my own personal top picks go, I think Thunderbolt is actually gonna be my top pick from this release. I'm really feeling yellows right now. And also I feel like it's been a minute since we got some shimmer graphics from Cirque, so I'm also really happy that we have a non-limited edition yellow shimmer graphic. I'm also gonna include Downpour Jelly as one of my top picks. I don't know why, but that particular tone of blue I really enjoyed, so I want to include that in my top picks. I'm also going to include Misty Morning in as a top pick from this collection, largely because out of everything in the collection, I wore that one the longest. I wore that one for a couple hours longer than the others, and I really enjoyed it quite a bit. As far as pricing and sale information goes, the April Showers collection is available right now on the Cirque Colors website. This release is not considered limited edition, so it should be around for quite a while. Cirque Color prices their polishes between $12.50 up to $16.50. There will be a bundle listing available if you want to pick up all 7 polishes. The bundle listing is an additional 10% off. If you don't want to get the bundle listing, you can of course use my affiliate code, which is Nicole Loves Nails, to save 10% off the entire website. That 10% doesn't stack on already discounted bundled items, however. I would love to know what everyone else thought of this release. Are you planning on picking it? Have you already picked it up? If you enjoy Cirque Color polishes, don't forget to check out my Cirque Colors playlist, which I'll have linked in the description box, and I will pin a comment in the comment section with it as well. Before we end today's video, I do want to give a very special shout out to my channel members. Shenanigans, Story Fans, your names of course all on the screen right now. If you would like to sign up for my channel memberships, there is a link for that in the description box, or you can click join next to the subscribe button. But as always, that is completely optional. Just like the video, comment on the video, share the video, and don't forget to give the video a little, a little hype. I don't know why I said it multiple times, but hype! And that is all greatly appreciated. So just thank you all for joining for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a lovely weekend, folks, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! I do find as a general rule for Cirque, the shimmer is super smooth and super Perseus. Yeah, Perseus. Got it.
When I get high, I ain't looking at the clock, still ballin' like Brian. Yeah, I'm headed to the Bucks, then I'm ballin' like yeah.